Well, welcome everybody to Two Pastors and a Mic. I'm Shannick,
And I'm Corey.
and we're so thankful that you're joining us wherever you're listening or watching from. Just know we appreciate you so much.
We do.
And if you haven't already, just please like, share, subscribe, or leave a review. We love getting those.
I don't think I can ever do that again without laughing at what we did
Wow.
last episode. Remember how we talked about words of affirmation and how that's why we probably have always asked you
always
to
ask
leave a
for it.
review, fishing for compliments.
Yeah. But we threw
Me.
that out there, and I don't know if
I know.
anybody did.
No, really.
So they don't care that our
No.
love language is words
We
or
we appreciate you joining us.
words
We
of
are
affirmation.
going to jump into how to thrive in marriage part 2. But before we do, we had a big week, right? Super Bowl this past week. Do you care to mention it? Big shout
I
out.
was going to say, I don't know why it was a big week because I don't care about it at all.
No, I didn't care. But we do have to honor I have to honor 2 Philly fans that we know. Brianne, congratulations on your win here at Hill City Church. And my college roommate, Jimmy, probably not watching this or listening, but
Jimmy's an Eagles fan?
yeah, he's born and raised in the Philadelphia area. So Eagles fan, big win to you. He let me know that they win. All of my Eagles fans that are listening across the country, across the world, congratulations to you. I was cheering for the Chiefs for the three-peat.
Is Jimmy
Or-
your friend that lives in that town that I always
Lancaster.
mispronounce?
Lancaster.
It's Lancaster or something. Not Lancaster. It's
Lancaster.
Lancaster.
Lancaster. It's like one word. They're very
Lancaster.
adamant about it. It's
Yeah.
Amishville area. So I don't know why that is important, but
What else is happening this week? Valentine's Day.
if you are listening to this, you have 2 days, guys. Now, I'm so thankful to be married to a woman. Now, hopefully this doesn't bring up any resentment in your household. I'm thankful to be married to a woman who does not care about Valentine's Day. So I'm
Same.
off the hook. But if you're married to one of those women that love Valentine's Day, make sure you don't forget, dudes. You got 2 days to get flowers, chocolates, whatever it is that you show your love and appreciation.
Especially if she is gifts for
Gifts.
her love
Oh,
language.
Great tie-in to
from
last
last
week's
week.
episode.
Make sure to get her a gift to let her know you're thinking
There.
about her and you love her.
There's your opportunity.
Absolutely.
Here's your
Also, so you don't do much for Valentine's Day?
sign. Mm-mm.
So Melanie doesn't really care about it much either. What we've done is we've had a tradition we're actually breaking this year. After probably 21 years in a row, we've always went out and got Chinese food and just brought it back to the house. She doesn't have to cook. We both love Chinese food, and it just became a tradition. Well, she actually mentioned maybe we just go out for Valentine's Day this year, which was a shock to me. We actually have a lot of Jeff Ruby gift cards too. I'm not going to lie, that people have given us that we haven't even used from last Christmas.
So you got quite a few
So,
buckaroos.
so we do. So I ended up looking, and it was
hold
all
on. How long ago did you do this? Jeff Ruby's is like a 5-month wait.
exactly. I looked maybe a couple months ago, booked up, no slots on Valentine's Day. And my sister said, "Hey, you all do anything for Valentine's Day?" I'm like, "No, I wanted to go out to Jeff Ruby's, but there's no shot at a reservation." And she's like, "Oh, okay. This thought it'd be fun if we go out to dinner." I was like, "Well, we're probably just going to grab Chinese food or something." Well, I hung up the phone. I'm like, "I'm going to look again to see." I got on there. Someone must have like canceled right that minute
No way.
because I got on. There was a table for 4 at 7:00, the prime time on Valentine's Day.
That's
open,
insane.
and I grabbed it. It was wild.
That's the favor of God, brother.
There you go.
So you're going out with your sister and her husband?
Yep.
That's going
And
to be a
Melanie.
little fun double on Valentine's Day.
To one of my favorite places, Jeff Ruby's.
Yeah, I'd go to Jeff Ruby's if I had Buckaroo gift cards
Yep.
and could get it on Valentine's Day. Hey, that's big shout out to you. So what are you doing? We'd love to know. Comments below.
Yeah. Let us
You
know.
do little weekend getaways. I wonder if there are very many people who are doing a weekend getaway with Valentine's Day being on a Friday. I think that might be a little rare thing. But kudos to all of you married people who are in bliss, married people who are trying to find the bliss again, or maybe the single people who are looking for bliss. Hopefully you heard last week when we said it's more important that you become the right person. Again, not a theological statement, before you find the right person for you. And we just thought it was one of those things, it is the love week. We've been talking about
Yep.
love and loss on a Sunday morning at Hill City, talking about grief work and disappointment. So if you're in that season, we would really encourage you to check out those messages. Bishop Jamie just preached this past week. But if you are in this season of figuring out certain things about your marriage, it's really important, in my opinion, that we talk about the language that we use, which we're going to discuss today, and the expectations. And if you haven't already bought my free ebook, what are you doing? It's an ebook. Maybe you're looking at me and being like, you've only been married 10 years and I've been married for 28. I would like to know what I got wrong or what you would change in my ebook if you are a veteran married couple who would want to do that. It's free for you. But in the book, we talk about the language that we use, the expectations that we have in it. Remember, we talked last week that Forbes announced that finances and sex are the two major reasons why people get divorced. I think that it's the expectations
around those
mostly
things
that are not communicated around finances and sex that lead couples to divorce. And so we also highlighted, there's only really two things you should be doing in your marriage. And that's according to 1 Corinthians 13, when Paul unpacks the love chapter. Again, he says a lot of what love is not, but he only tells us two things that love is. Love is patient and kind. And so if we were more patient and more kind within our marriages, we believe that they would thrive like never before. But we said that we need to know 4 things within being patient and kind in our marriages. 4 knowings. Last week, we talked about the love languages. This week, we're going to talk about knowing and understanding the 4 myths in marriage. And I know you taught me these first 2 when Julie and I did our premarital counseling with you. I've added 2. So why don't you take the first 2? I'll take the last 2. Talk about these myths that we have within marriage that people tend to believe.
Yeah, these are 4 different myths, but they kind of all tie together and they're woven together. The first myth of marriage is that marriage is 50-50. It's not. It's not 50-50. And I know a lot of times people will think going into it that, if I just do my half, I'll be okay. Well, a lot of times we come into situations and realize that we go through either seasons, and those seasons can be days, weeks, months, even years, where one spouse can't even bring 50% to the table, whether it's job related, mental health related, all kinds of different reasons. And so if you just continue to put in my 50%, all that does is lead to disappointment
and resentment.
Yeah. What ultimately the disappointment leads to not only resentment, but it just leads to so many difficulties of having a thriving, sustainable marriage. And so it's not 50%, 50%, it requires 100% of yourself to give to each other. And I'm going to just kind of stop there because I know in myth 3, we'll pick this back up. But myth number 2 is, and this is a big one, going into a marriage or thinking that you can change your spouse.
This is a big one.
Here's the deal. You can't. So stop trying.
Any other wise advice?
Well, again, going into a marriage or having a marriage where you think you can change someone, again, all of these things just lead to like disappointment, resentment, difficulties. But at the end of the day, people grow throughout their life. And so I know you're going to mention in just a minute. I like that. In a minute. But our friend Bill Vanderbush wrote a book, The 4 People You Marry, and that book was all about how people change and you change, and you shouldn't be the same person as when you got married 20, 30, 40 years down the road, because you grow, you mature, you experience life, as it happens to you. And so mindsets can change and beliefs can change because of those different lived out experiences. And so you do change, but you can't expect for you to be the one changing the other person.
Yeah. Do you remember the 4 people you marry, who they are from my notes? Is it worth looking up to look it up? I know I have notes on this. Do you remember? Actually, there is a term in here, and I quote it in the ebook. I think it's good here to unpack this. I learned it from Bill Vanderbush when he talked about limerence. Limerence? Am I saying that right? Limerence, do you remember what the term limerence is? Mm-mm. He talked about there is a now scientific term called limerence. I might be mispronouncing that, where it's like that infatuation thing, and it can last anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And he said, almost every marriage starts out this way, where you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
stop thinking about that person. You want to spend all your time with them. So scientifically, they figured out that there's like a 6 month to 2 year window. Once you get past that 2 year window, you are going to have to figure out, and usually the language is changing from I love you to I choose you. You're going to have to figure out like how to grow in marriage with that. And I thought that was fascinating. I did a lot of research on that from
Right.
that conference, but I thought that was a very interesting perspective.
Right. So the difference between love and limerence, just pulling this up real quick, love is built on meaningful connection. Limerence usually is just one-sided. Love, you solve problems together. Limerence is you believe the other person can solve your problems. Love, you understand their flaws and you love them anyway. Limerence is you put them on a pedestal and you believe that they're flawless. Again, it's that honeymoon phase, if you will. Love is comforting and balanced. Limerence is obsessive and stressful. So I think he did talk about the difference between love and limerence.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Can you believe that was like a year ago when we had him in for that? My favorite quote from him during that conference, and I don't know if this has anything to do with this week's episode, but he says, you cannot build a covenant of marriage on disagreement. So if you speak negatively about yourself and are seeking your spouse to speak the opposite, you'll end up building your marriage on disagreement. And I loved that perspective. That was the best one to me. Yeah.
Love it.
Is that all you
So you
had for
can't
those
change them.
first two?
Yep.
I'm trying to pull back up our notes. Point number 3 is my favorite myth to talk about, especially in premarital counseling. It also goes back to one of my biggest pet peeves when and I talk about this with stop introducing your married person as your other half, because myth number 3 is that your spouse will complete you. Your spouse is not a half person. They're not the better half person. We need to completely remove this language from our marriage, in my opinion. Again, and some people disagree. That's fine. Because this is so important to me. It's because you are already complete in Christ. You don't need another human being to complete you. Now, they will complement you, but they won't complete you because you are complete in Christ. Your spouse will make you better, and they will challenge you, and they will grow with you, but they don't complete you. You were created whole in the image and likeness of God. We must speak wholeness over us. I did quote that Bill Vanderbush. I think that applies right here to what he said. If you speak negatively about yourself and you're seeking your spouse to speak the opposite, you will build your marriage on disagreement. And again, when you speak that this is another half person, you don't even understand what's going on in your psyche subconsciously. And a healthy marriage is built on two complete individuals coming together, not two halves trying to make a whole. And that's one of my things I'm most passionate about, because we just say it so flippantly in our culture without realizing the consequences that they have in somebody. Like, it's usually the men too. Like, the men will introduce their wife and, oh, this is my better half. And no, they complement you. You are a whole human being. You are not a half human being. You are a whole person in Christ. And so that's why that's one of my favorite things to talk about. I add that. And last one, this might be very controversial, so we might have to explain this.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a lot of sensitivity around this. But in the ebook, I wrote that the 4th myth is that marriage is hard. Take some time. Yes, remember, words matter. Yes, marriages have challenges. They have hard seasons, hard moments, hard conversations. But marriage is not in and of itself hard. We have to change the language that we use to speak about it. It must mean you must make some reframing conversations around this, because yes, there are hard moments, but your marriage is not inherently hard. Your marriage is amazing. That has to be the starting point. Marriage is actually amazing. It is fun. It is life-giving. Yes, there are hard moments and hard decisions and hard conversations, but marriage is not hard. Marriage is awesome with hard conversations. You see the difference? And I think that verbiage does matter, because words have power. We need to start speaking life over our marriage. Even if it's not amazing in this season, speaking it into existence is powerful. It's worth it. Like, your marriage is worth it. yes, difficult moments come, but you and your spouse are a team. And when we look at marriage as a team game instead of an individual game, then together you can face anything and everything because you guys have power in two. Shift your mindset and you'll shift your experience in marriage. And I know that there's people out there that want to argue, no, marriage is hard. Again, marriage has hard moments. But if we keep speaking that marriage is hard over our marriages, that's what it will always be. And again, I am going to be a stickler on the words that we use because I found myself getting in this language war with myself, especially with 3 kids. Oh, I have no time for Julia. We get literally our routines because my wife works from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. when we put our kids to bed is like work responsibilities, kid responsibilities, food, all that stuff, bedtime routines. And by the time that my wife and I are done putting the kids to bed, come at 8 o'clock, we are looking at each other absolutely exhausted in this season. We have been in bed consistently between 8 and 9 p.m. every night, even on weekends. Part of me kind of likes it. But if we're not intentional with literally that hour or 2 hours that we have together, we will look at this season as a drain. And so Julie and I have been really challenging ourselves to not look at this season of just surviving, even though it does feel that way, is no, we are thriving in the midst of our chaotic season. And I get it, seasons comes and go, but we have to change the language that we use to describe it.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you opened up with what love is it's patient and it's kind. And so as we choose to be patient and kind to our spouse in marriage, there are going to be difficulties along the way. There are going to be tough seasons. But I love what you had to say, thinking about it of marriage, of being, no, it's amazing, it's awesome. But yes, we're going to go through some different trials where our patience will be tried, where I don't want to show kindness.
Yeah, preach, brother.
But the process in that to continue to live out those things.
Why is it so much easier, just vulnerability here, why is it so much easier to not be kind?
Because it takes intention, it takes work, it takes effort. And think about this, like I would say most of us live our life worrying about ourselves. We do live selfishly a lot of times. But when you choose kindness, you're choosing someone else over yourself. Whether it's giving of time, intentionality, money, whatever, to show kindness to someone else, it's taking the attention off of yourself. And that's hard for us to do.
It is hard.
That's why there's the tension.
Yeah.
With saying marriage is hard. But no, it's awesome. We go through hard moments. That's the tension.
Yeah. Well, happy love week in the States. The 4 myths are marriage is 50-50. It's not. That's a myth. Myth number 2 is that you can change them. You can't. Stop trying. Myth number 3 is that they complete you. No, boo-boo. Christ completed you. And myth number 4 is that marriage is hard. Remember, marriage is amazing with hard seasons, but you guys can conquer anything together. And if you're curious more about marriage conversations, again, go get the free ebook. If you're struggling, go get the free ebook. If you're single, go get the free ebook, or get some like-minded people around you to encourage you in your season of loneliness, season of struggle, or season of thriving. Because the reason why we do this is to spark conversations so that you can have a marriage that does not just survive, but thrives.
Absolutely. And if you haven't already, go back to last week and actually take the 5 love language test. And we're curious how that has played out in your marriage as you've done that over the last few weeks. Let us know. Reach out.
Do it.
And with that, just know you're loved and there's nothing you can do about it.